Hello everyone and welcome to a very special episode of the Chef JKP Podcast. This is our 100th episode. Can you believe it? What an incredible journey it has been. First and foremost, I want to say a huge thank you to every single one of you who has supported the podcast since we started back in May 2020. Whether you've been here since day one or you're joining us just now, your support means absolutely everything. And by the way, I have a very special announcement to make. So stick around as you will not want to miss it. Now, let's take a little trip down memory lane. This podcast began in the most humble way possible, in my apartment. It all started with a suggestion from my amazing wife, who was also listening to a few podcasts herself and got me to listen to a few of them. And she actually turned around to me and said, "You know what, you'd actually be quite good at this." And yeah, she was right, as always, by the way. This podcast, the idea was to be an educational show to tell the truth about the ups and downs of the hospitality industry. No sugarcoating, no fluff, just real stories from real people. I am now going to play you the very first introduction clip along with a few of the guests from the previous seasons. Now, gang, please be kind, as I did the entire setup and sound on my own for the first two seasons. And you'll be able to tell, by the way, I was just a little bit nervous.
Welcome to the Chef JKP Podcast with me, James Knight Paccheco.
Welcome back to the Chef JKP Podcast, and today we've got the most incredible guest.
Again.
It's a long story, so I don't know if the audience is ready.
At which point did it start to get quite serious?
I always knew I'm enjoying it, but this is who I am.
I challenge anybody that says ready meals and fast meals are cheaper.
The pressure was on.
I wanted to quit every day.
The fryer was on fire, and
Every time I see you watching, it's very interesting.
he went basically above and beyond.
Were you helping in the kitchen, or you were just like watching or not involved at all?
No, so
Welcome to season 8. Until next time, food is memories. Just listening to that first intro really takes me back into the emotion of setting up a small studio in the middle of our apartment, and also what is very prominent in the clip is how quiet I am, as I really didn't want the dogs to bark who were in the next room. My wife Maria was having to then entertain these dogs, my little cutie dogs, as I was rambling on. Editing the first show was also a painful process, as it was my very first time to then creating the artwork, which again, the artwork was amazing, created by my wife, and then of course doing the intros, the outros, to then making the narrative make sense, editing the music levels, of course being super critical of my work as always. Now, when it comes to the music, I wanted it to have a sort of rock and roll element to it. One of my closest childhood friends is a legend. His name is Alex Kershaw. He is in one of my all-time favorite bands, and they are called The Computers. The track that I chose is called Disco Sucks. Personally, I just love the song. And my thoughts were, just like a fighter, when they get into the ring, they have this amazing music. And of course, the intro music has to be super cool. And don't forget, us chefs are also a bit rock and roll, right? And then, after all of that, we went live for the first episode, and the rest is history. Over the past 4 years, we've been fortunate to feature over 100 of the industry's top chefs, CEOs, and media personalities. These incredible guests have shared their journeys, challenges, and insights, giving us a front row seat into the reality of what it takes to be at the world's highest levels of gastronomy. From hilarious anecdotes to heart-wrenching stories, every episode has been a masterclass in what it means to thrive in this wonderful industry.
I still remember one of the incidences was that I was being punished. I was being asked to chop, a crate of green chilies. And the trick is that you have to put oil on your nails, on your fingertips. Because we didn't wear gloves at that point and we were chopping. And if you don't, those chilies go inside those fingertips and they burn. And I didn't know the trick. So I was like, oh, okay. You need to oil your fingertips and then chop green chilies.
Ah, very good. I like the tip. That's really good. That's a new one. I've not heard that before. So
hopefully
really
you don't
cool.
have to do that anymore.
Yeah, well.
We were honored and rewarded with the first 3 Michelin stars of Holland, and me scratching my head and saying, wait a minute, I have to lead now the best restaurant in the Netherlands, maybe in the white area. I knew what Michelin stars were meaning to restaurants, but this was the Champions League, that was top level. So an entire new lifestyle faced me.
I want to kick off this celebration by highlighting some of the most memorable moments of the past 4 years. Let's take a listen.
I was not used to that type of discipline. Really struggled. Got in like 3 or 4 fights. Spent nights in prison. I challenge anybody that says ready meals and fast meals are cheaper.
The butcher man will have a fag in his mouth.
Nice.
And then shirtless, just apron. And then the apron are absolutely filthy. And then, have the cleavers like, which part do you want, babe?
Aren't those moments just amazing? Hearing those stories again reminds me of the depth and diversity and experiences of our guests and what they have brought to this show. From celebrated chefs to trailblazing entrepreneurs, each guest has left us with so many invaluable lessons. Not going to lie, it's also been really challenging for me to pick out the clips to play, because there have been so many moments of brilliance on the show.
I moved to Germany with 18, and I was thinking, what would I feel passionate about? What do I think I could, be good at?
My father straight up just said, look at our relationship. What do you remember from your childhood? And I was like, with you? Nothing. He's like, every day, your soccer practice, your piano practice, your homework, was I there? And I was like, no. Good point. He's like, you need to understand that you will not have time and it will be very difficult for you to prioritize your family.
Right. To look back and give myself advice, I would say, follow your gut. Surround yourself by people who will allow you to progress and develop. And be a good person. Treat people with respect. I guess, do you know what? I'm in my 40s now, early 40s. I would say make sure you take care of yourself from a health point of view and, look after yourself.
I'm not afraid to say it. I've had some massive failures. Shisharu, Giles Coran said it was one of the, if he could die in a restaurant, Shisharu would be it. He gave it 10 out of 10, loved it, and it failed miserably. I lost £3.2 million in that restaurant. Whoa. Right? Do I sit there crying about it? No. Did it hurt? Yeah, of course it hurt. But the bottom line is, it's like you have to accept failure, right? You've got to learn from it, and you've got to understand that not everything's going to go your way.
Alain Passard taught me how to understand the product. I remember the first day I arrived in his kitchen, he looked at me and he's like, hey, yo, asparagus. He called me asparagus because I'm long and, And I was like, yes. He's like, come, I'll show you something. And then he showed me an egg and he's like, as soon as you understand what's inside the egg, you will understand how to be an egg. Something like that. I look at him, I was like, okay, well, I'm just arrived. Like, seriously, I don't understand. And I got the opportunity, he sent me to his garden. that he has like an hour away from Paris.
Wow.
So I was there like cooking for his head of garden, for the whole potager of Alain Passard. I was seeing how they grow the vegetables and everything. And I understood that day what he meant by that. Is like, understand your product first, and then you will know how to cook it the perfect way.
It was a nightmare. We'll probably have to do another podcast for this whole incident that happened in my life. And it took a lot away from me. And then I came back. I helped rebuild the hotel, because there were bombs and it was shot all over.
I had to go on a stage or an internship to finish my 4 year of education. And that was in Amsterdam in a restaurant called Vermeer, 1 Michelin star at that time. Imagine taking my backpack coming from a small city called Zwolle back in the Netherlands to the big Amsterdam, and being on the stage with industry leaders, pop artists, and serving them food and wine.
So Sarge got me up on the chef's table. Gordon's opening up in Paris. Wanted to go out there. They're aiming for 2 Michelin stars in 12 months. I was like, when? It's probably a year or so off. And I was like, well, I need to move. I can't spend another year here. I'd got up to junior sous chef. I started as chef de partie at Claridge's, left as junior sous chef. Got onto the pass for Scott's sake, because I know he will listen to this. He will always laugh his head off when I got thrown off the pass.
For people who don't know, tamarind is the first ethnic cuisine in Europe to receive a Michelin star. So is northern Indian cuisine, is Punjabi, and is in Mayfair. So that's when I embark on my stargazer, star chaser, whatever people want to call it, of my career.
50 Best is a bit of a popularity contest, right? So these restaurants are relative to each other. So you could have in theory, you could have, and this take this for the world 50 Best. You could have a 3-star restaurant that is lower down the pecking order, right, than a 1-star restaurant, right? And I could name the examples of where that happens. And so really it's about who's hot right now. I think there's a little bit of that plays into 50 Best. And I don't say that to be derogatory. I say that because I think that's just part of that's part of the DNA.
Now, let's talk about the lessons we've learned from these amazing guests. One common thread that stands out above everything else is resilience. This industry, let's be honest, demands so much from us, but it also rewards passion, innovation, and pure hard work. Our guests have taught us to embrace challenges, to keep pushing boundaries, and to never stop learning. It's like what I love about being in hospitality is that you never stop learning. I've been in the industry now for well over 25 years. I can tell you, not one day is the same. There are always challenges. There's also many triumphs along the way. But the cool thing is, I think, that I'm always learning from my team, from my customers, and by the way, some of you customers have pushed me to the edge, and I have to say thank you. But above all, I really love this industry. The awards, of course, are a small part of what we do, and we feel validation for our hard work and dedication to our craft. But for me, being in the moment and being part of something special is what makes hospitality truly amazing. Don't forget the other thing, for me, is being able to connect with strangers over food is a pure gift. This is one of the biggest lessons for me. That we're all connected in one way or another through the love of food. Now, I'm going to give you a few more guests who gave us some really valuable and incredible lessons along the way. Let's take a listen.
There's nothing worse than procrastination. You will fail, but who cares? Just fix it and move on.
So we worked on the first ever global activation, and everybody's like, this is a bit hard work, but we got 270 team members submit recipes. We partnered with the rum brand, and we finally narrowed it down, and we took 7 team members to the Hilton Caribe in Puerto Rico, the founding hotel.
We're in an era right now where, and I say this all the time because I believe it, if you're not visible, you're invisible. We're in an era where you need to make that extra effort to communicate, to be a bit of a personality, to explain what you're doing. And if you're not that person, you may not be around for as long as the one who is. And if they start to realize that this is now essential, this is not, we'd like you to do this, this is now part of your role. Part of your role is you're a chef, but you know what? You need to be able to enroll people. You need to be able to teach people. You need to be able to have some form of social stand or personality in order to keep growing as a chef. So in order for you to keep getting new opportunities, in order for your restaurant to get the attention that you want it to have.
There were few chefs who were sitting around me, and after the ceremony, he said, "Come down, man," because they see me just shaking my legs, and a bit of sweat coming down my ears. So it was,
Wow.
it was not easy, man. I think.
Wow.
And I think by doing most of the time, last year everything came in together.
Yes.
Mina's 50 Best, Gourmet, Michelin Guide, and I think I was talking to many of the chefs, and I think it was tough because all of that happened February. In 6 months, 3 biggest of the publications who can
Make or break you.
Yes, is launching its first guide or first edition. And it was just too much to take. I think the pressure was so much last year that from January onwards or February onwards, when we got to know, it was scary. Every time we were sitting in any of it just made us nervous. And I remember especially the Michelin one, because in Michelin one, you're seeing many restaurants who you expect to get a star and they are just mentioned,
I went to the gynac and I said, I feel something. I don't know what this is. And please guide me what to do next. She said, okay, let's have you checked. So they had my biopsy done. And the biopsy came out that I don't have cancer. So it was just benign. In fact, I was given the option that you have the option of not removing it. Because women, it's very common to have lumps in the breast due to hormonal changes, etc., etc. I said, no, I'm not the person who's going to keep something like this in me. I said, get rid of it. So I decided to go in for the surgery and I got rid of it. I took 7 days leave then. And then I was back in the kitchen cooking after 7 days of having...
Oh my God.
The only thing I couldn't do was bend straight forward down. I would squat and sit and pick up something that is falling.
So you went in and back to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, when the result came out of the lump that was removed, turned out the doctor tells me, oops, you have cancer. And I said, oops, this is not an information I wanted to hear.
So they misdiagnosed you.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what were the next steps after that? So what did they tell you? They were like, okay, we've misdiagnosed you.
Yeah.
Apologies.
No.
Okay.
There is no apology.
Very
given.
good. Okay, perfect. What were your options then? And what did they say?
The doctor gave me...
How far, which stage was it?
He had no idea.
Okay.
He had no idea. He only knew the amount of lump that was taken out. He didn't know how much of it was cancer, how much of it was not. So till date, I don't know.
The guy whom you help when he's really in a corner will think of you in a very different way from everybody else.
100%.
And look, we have that. This is something that we have a guy who's our head of ops, who's been with us for 10 years. He's a pretty rough around the edges. He's a kind of a proper hardcore operator. The thing I love about him is he thinks about cost, but he thinks about customer first.
Wow.
And if that means he has to, on a Saturday night, he has to open the warehouse at 2 a.m. because somebody's ringing him to say, I need whatever it be, he does it.
So when I was a kid, I always wanted to do something insane, crazy, grand with my life. And then I always, my mind always hit the brakes. It's like, oh, you're Arab, you can't do anything special. And I'm half white, my mom is French, but oh, you have it almost as a kid, you don't know any better, you just watch all the bad guys in the movies be like Indian people or Afghanistani people or Arab people or Iranians, and so you just like immediately, that's the information you consume as a kid. You immediately feel like, oh, you're a biologically defected human being, you know, like that's, who's gonna tell me any better at 6 years old, you know? And like I decided when I was like 22, 21, I was like, man, one day I'm gonna do something so big, so unignorable, so never done before, regardless of the industry, so crazy, so like eternal, that not a single kid in the Middle East will ever have to think the way that I thought again.
I missed out on a lot of childhood stuff because I had responsibilities. I mean, I was helping my mom cook dinners from the age of 9 or 10. Like, she was like out working 2 jobs and trying to put me through school. And like, I just was cooking from a young age. Not good, not probably very good, but I could work a stove. I could, when she got home, I could make a dinner. And then I knew from really young, I loved cooking.
As a chef and as a host, I've learned a lot too. Starting from my apartment, I never imagined this podcast would grow to what it is today. From recording episodes on a simple mic and then uploading it onto my Mac, to then moving into an incredible professional studio. And even, can you imagine being featured on Emirates Airlines? To then also interviewing some of my personal heroes, some icons of the industry. It's been a really unbelievable journey. It's taught me the importance of consistency, authenticity, and always striving for excellence, much in the same way as my actual job of being a chef. As we all know, service is not always going to be perfect. Mistakes will be made, but it's about bouncing back on a daily basis. It makes me think of that incredible Japanese philosophy, Kaizen, to get better day by day, or in other words, continuous improvement. And by the way, speaking of excellence and improvement, I'm thrilled to announce that we have some really exciting news. And seeing that I still love smashing the drums from time to time, I'm going to give you a little drum roll. We are, believe it or not, going to be launching the Chef JKP Podcast live shows. You heard that right. Live shows are coming your way, and I cannot wait to meet some of you in person, as well as bringing the magic of the podcast to a live audience. More details will be announced soon, so make sure to stay tuned, you cheeky lot. Now, of course, none of this would be possible without the support of our fantastic sponsors over the years. A huge thank you to every brand partner who believed in the podcast and contributed to its growth. And of course, all of you amazing Chef JKP soldiers who are always listening, subscribing. You are the very heart and soul of the show. Your comments, reviews, messages inspire me every single day. And as we say in the kitchen, to push on and work even harder to give you the best content possible. If you'd like to support the show, don't forget, consider purchasing our amazing water thermos bottles. Not only are they practical, but they also help to keep this podcast running and growing. And of course, make sure you've already done this. Press that follow, subscribe button. Most importantly, what I would really like to ask is a very small, tiny favor. Make sure to share the show with your friends, family, goldfish, cat, whoever you want to. Just make sure you share. Now, most importantly, I am fully focused on making the podcast the best it can possibly be. To have guests who are making a huge difference and who bring value to the show. In order for us to do that, it's really important that you just keep screaming about it. Scream about the Chef JKP podcast and how much you love it. And make sure you let me know who you want on the show too. Now, you can also subscribe on YouTube, which is really, really important, and with a 5-star rating. Your support truly does make a monumental difference. So, as we wrap up this milestone episode, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, thank you so much. Here's to the next 100 episodes of truth-telling, laughter, and learning. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep cooking. So don't forget, until next time, food is memories.